Hello class. Today I'd like to look at shapes. Let's look at measurement. On the screen I have here our 8th grade mathematics formula chart. Some formulas are really good, some are terrible. We'll work on that. So let's look what we have. We have slope-intercept form. That's not slope, that's slope-intercept form. The next one is a direct variation. That means y equals mx plus 0. In other words, it's proportional. It goes through 0, 0. B is 0. This one here, how to find slope of a line. We use len-reg, list 1, list 2, y1. Next, circles. You got circumference, and circumference is like perimeter, distance around. Let's see if I can get that back on the screen. Right there. That's 2 pi r or pi times d. Use this one if you need an r. Use this one if you're given a d. 2 radius is the same as 1 diameter. Next, area. You've got a triangle, rectangle, a parallelogram, same thing. Trapezoid, circle. A parallelogram just has opposite parallel sides. It would look like a diamond, but a rectangle is a parallelogram. It just happens to have right angles. Anyway, back to triangles. You got half base height. You got base times height for rectangle, and you've got a trap here, which is half base plus base times height. You have to add these before you can do half or times height. Parentheses first. Circle is pi radius squared or pi rr. If you're using the calculator, pi radius squared works well. Next one, it's multiple prisms. You got a square, that's a prism, that's a cube. You've got a rectangular prism, which could be rectangles and squares, or rectangles. And then you got a triangular prism, which is going to have 2 triangles and probably 3 rectangles or 3 squares. So you do have 3 different variety. You also have a cylinder here, and that would be like a can of corn, a can of green beans, my Dr. Pepper. Lateral means walls only. Go get the ladder. We're painting the wall. Total, it obviously means total, in all, because these are the walls, these are the 2 bases. Here's the wall, here's the 2 bases. You can tell because of the 2. So here's the bases, and these are the walls. This is a capital P for perimeter. That's a capital B for base. And that's pi radius height, pi radius squared. Next, volume. You got prism or cylinder, same thing again. And that's capital base times height. In class, we play with drawing shapes on that, so you have to fix these. These aren't perfect. And again, that would be their rectangular prism, square prism, which would be cube, triangular prism, cylinder. Next one, pyramid or cone. It's 1/3 capital base times height, and you got to fix that capital base, just like you have to fix that one. Sphere, which is a basketball, volleyball, tennis ball. So here's 4/3 pi radius cubed. You would have to use a caret top for 3 because you don't have a button for a 3. You do have a button with a 2 on it. Additional information, you got Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but we don't usually use that formula. We use the other ones. Simple interest, compound interest. All right, so let's begin. So what I'd like to do is look at volume, and here are your options. You've got a sphere, a cone, cylinder. Now you've got 3 prisms. You've got a rectangle, a square, triangle, and you've got 2 types of pyramids, a rectangle pyramid and a triangle pyramid. There could be a square here as well. So let's start at the beginning and work our way down. Hope I don't run out of time. Number 1, somebody's got a snow globe for her birthday, and the globe has a diameter of 4 inches. All right, to save some time, I've already pre-wrote this in. It said the diameter was 4, so here's your diameter. It's the long line. That dot means center, so I wrote diameters 4. Now, number 1, action word. It's a sphere, and I wrote volume because it said so right there. Next, what do I know? Well, I know on the formula chart it says this. I know that diameter is 4, and I should know that radius is 2 because it's half. Now, if you look in this formula right here, you don't see any D's, and I shouldn't see any 4's either because there aren't any D's. Next, so I took the formula again, volume equals 4/3 pi. I took the r out and then substituted in the 2, and I kept the 3 there. And so I'm going to type it in the calculator and look at my answer. I typed it in. I got 4/3 times pi times 2 to the 3rd power with that, using that caret top. I got 33.51, and that is my volume. Remember, it's going to be inches to the 3rd power. Volume always is to the 3rd. All right, here's a cone. Question 3. You have a circular opening on an ice cream cone, has a diameter of 7, the height is 10, and it says write an equation that can be used to find the volume in cubic centimeters of the ice cream. So it says volume right there. So let's set it up. What is your 1, 2, 3 going to look like? Stop the video and do the problem. All right, you've had time to stop the video and let's look at what you wrote. Number one, what was the action word? Cone and its volume. Number two, what do you know? Well, on the formula chart it says volume equals 1/3 base height. I know the shape of the base is a circle. I know the diameter is 7, it said so. I know the height is 10. And remember, we said if the height doesn't have a right angle, then you did it wrong. If you go to your formula chart and find circle for area, you'll find pi radius squared, so that takes place of that. So if I rewrite it, 1/3 pi radius squared height, and then I can take this r and h and substitute in what I know. H is my 10, and that's a d. I don't have a d, so how do you find r? You're correct. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So if you look at what I've wrote, 1/3 pi 3.5 squared. Don't forget the little 2. And there's a 10. If you type that in the home screen, it's going to look like that. I put parentheses around everything. I can't get in trouble if I put parentheses. I can if I forget them. So that's going to round to 128 and 28/100ths. Remember, I got the 3.5 when I took 7 divided by 2 to get a radius. Next shape. Let's do this question 3. That's a cylinder. It says the storage tank has a height of 10 feet and a diameter of 6 feet. The tank is half filled with oil. Approximately how much oil in cubic feet is currently in the cylinder? Now, a couple things you should notice. Number one, see that feet to the third power? That means volume. If you read it, it didn't say volume anywhere, but it says so right here. Only thing that's volume has a third power to it. It also says you want to fill it half full. That means it may be 10 feet tall, but the material inside is only this much. That means this is not 10, it is, yes, you're correct, divide by 2, 5, because it's half. So let's set up that problem. And if you notice the answers, those have pi's in them. So you would need to type pi in the calculator when you get the answer. Stop the video, do that math problem, and we'll get back with the answer. All right, let's see how you did. Number one, the action word was cylinder and volume. Number two, the formula is volume equals capital base height. The circle is pi radius squared from your formula chart for circles for area. Bring down that height. I need to find an R number and an H number. Now they said it's 10 feet tall, but it's only half full, so you can delete that 10 and put a 5 in. So my 5 goes right here where height is. Now this is 6, and that's nice for diameter. I don't have a D. I have an R. So I have to divide by 2, and I got 3. So this R becomes 3. If I type that in, and I can ignore this because it's down here in my answers already, what do I get? Here's my calculator. I typed in 3 to the second power times 5, and I got 45. So my answer choice is going to be C, because the pi was pulled out of the equation. Next problem. I'm going to use this image to help us find the volume of a rectangular prism. So I'm not really using the math problem. I want to use the image though. So at this point, there's your image, and we're fixing to find volume of this rectangular prism. I took the time to trace it off myself so we could just have the image without the word. So we've got a rectangular prism, and we need to figure out how to find the volume. Now the question would be, what is the base? Usually these things stand tall. Does it matter? Maybe it doesn't. Usually on these rectangular prisms, what it's sitting on is its base. A cylinder and pyramids, that doesn't work for that. But these things, what it sits on is its base. It wouldn't matter too much, but it just keeps it clearer. Stop the video and find the volume. Use your 3 steps. Now, I've shown my work. I've wrote, number one, it's rectangle is a prism. I want to find volume. My volume formula is volume is base times height. I put a square around this shape because it's sitting on a square rectangle. If you go to your formula chart, area for a rectangle is base times height. I brought that h down. This one's the 3D height. That's the 2D height because this is coming from its base. The old formula was length times width times height. Now, so I've got my 3, my 3.5, and my 2.5. It wouldn't matter what the order is. Now, I moved this 2.5 to this one, and I usually tell the kids it's more like a chicken foot imprint in the sand. You need these 3 numbers. It should come right here together. It's like a chicken foot. Here would be the leg of the chicken. Type those in, you get the answer, and I got the answer of 26.25, and that'd be feet to the third power because it's volume. Let's do another one. All right, here is a triangular prism. Go ahead and stop the video and set up your 1, 2, 3s and solve for volume. All right, let's look at what you've done. Number one, it was a triangle prism, volume. I wrote the formula volume equals base times height. I put a triangle here because this thing needs to stand up tall. It's a triangle for its base. That would be like a triangular vase for water for flowers. That would spill if you had it on its side. Now, if you go to your formula chart, half base times height is the area formula for a triangle, and this height is the 3D height. So if you look at what I've done, 13 is my 3D height if you stand this thing up tall, so that explains the 13. This base of this triangle is 4, and this height right here is 5. Now, I know some of you are wanting to change this to 2, but remember, this triangle and then this triangle are still 4. It's total length. So you've got half, 4, 5, and 13. And if you type that in the calculator, you'll get 130. Now, I could have done half of 4 is 2, and 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 times 13 is 130. And that would be 130 centimeters cubed. Why cubed? Yes, you're right. Volume is always cubed. Next problem. I've drawn you a square prism, and I want to find the volume, but I'm only going to fill it 40% full. So how would you deal with changing that height to 40% full? And what is the height? I didn't say. I only told you the length was 7.3 inches. How will you figure this out? Stop the video and think about it. Alrighty, here's my work. Number 1 is a square prism, and I'm finding volume, but it's only 40% full. And I want the full number. I don't want to know how much is missing. Next, the volume is base times height. The shape is a square, so I drew a square. The formula for square is base times height for area. So you got base times height times height. This is the 3D number. If this thing is a square prism, a cube in other words, that means all these numbers are the same. So the base is 7.3, the height 7.3, the 3D height is 7.3 times 40%, and 40% is 40 over 100. If you type all that in, you will get that math problem right there. So you see 3 7.3s times 40%, and if I hit enter, I get 155.61 rounded. So my volume is 155.61 inches cubed. Alright, let's look at our rectangular pyramid. It has a point at the top. That's how you know it's a pyramid. So in case you didn't, you do now. Let's go ahead and find volume. Go ahead and write out your 3 steps, stop the video, and solve the problem. Alright, let's look at my math. So I've got a rectangle for pyramid. We're finding volume. I know its volume equals 1/3 base times height. The capital base, I drew a rectangle around it, and I striped it for area. That's going to change to base times height. So I've got 1/3 base times height times height. So it doesn't sound too hard. Let's go look what we have. Right here, the 17.3 would be the base. I need this number right here, and I don't have it, says the question mark. I do have this codiagonal, but I don't have a diagonal over there in that formula. But I do have a right angle. And these little dashed lines right here would be the height. Remember, these right here would be slant height, and I don't need those. So if you look at my formula, I brought your 1/3. Your base was 17.3. It's the number on the bottom. I don't know the height of the base, and the height of the 3D is 7. So I got to figure this piece out. Now I have the base. I have the diagonal. I don't know this piece here. And how about that's a right triangle, and that would be A, that would be B, and that might be C. Now I'm not missing C. I'm missing A. So over here I wrote your formula. A is C squared minus B squared. Remember, if you want the small piece, you subtract. So I've got 28 squared is the diagonal, and 17.3 is the leg, and I squared them. You got to get those parentheses in the right spot. If you don't, it's going to get it wrong. Now it's 22.02. So I took this answer and inserted it here, and I rewrote it because it's a big fat mess. So I've got 1/3, 17.3, the 22.02 I just found, and my 7. And when I hit the enter button, I don't know what I have. Let's see. So I typed that in, and here's my calculator. So you got the 1/3, the 17.3, the 22.02, and the 7. So I got 888 and 87 hundredths. Lots of work. That should be a 7, not an 8. I'm running out of film, so I want you to look at this. I don't have time to explain it, but there is the material. Your answer is 299.62. You had to have this extra set of parentheses for this square root to work. Thanks for watching the video.